Mom called it a small dinner and left me out of my sister's engagement party, so I booked a beach trip alone. By 2 a.m., my phone was blowing up because Bryce's secret had destroyed everything. If my family were a dinner table, I would not have a seat. I would be the folding chair in the hallway, the one brought out when it was convenient, then shoved back into storage when everyone was finished pretending I belonged. That sounds bitter, because it is. But after years of being treated like the extra person, the one who set up chairs, fixed outlets, rebuilt things for free, and drove 3 hours to celebrate someone else while everyone forgot my birthday fell the same week, bitterness starts to look a lot like clarity. My name is Drew. I'm 29 years old, I live alone in a modest apartment above my workshop, and I run a small but reliable repair business. I'm the guy people call when a faucet will not stop leaking, when a breaker will not reset, when a water heater starts making a sound like it is planning to explode. But I'm not the guy my family calls when they are planning celebrations. Not anymore. The golden child in my family is Melanie, my younger sister by 2 years though. If you watch the way my parents treated her, you would think she came out of the womb wearing a tiara and holding a backup Instagram account. If Melanie even whispers the word engaged, my mom starts shopping for venues before the ring is out of the box. Me? I once brought a girlfriend to Thanksgiving, and my mom asked me if I had hired her off Craigslist. So yes, there was history. A lot of it. It was a Wednesday afternoon, and I was halfway under a kitchen sink trying to coax an old garbage disposal into retirement when my phone buzzed in my pocket. My mom sounded cheerful the second I answered. She called me sweetheart like she always did when she was about to make something sound softer than it was. I muttered hello, with one arm still buried in plumbing and regret. She told me she just wanted to let me know that they were doing something small for Melanie and Bryce that weekend. A casual dinner, nothing big. I blinked up at the underside of the sink and asked if I was invited. She said it was just a quick thing, immediate family. Immediate family. Right. The people I had shared 29 Christmases with. The woman whose garage I had rewired for free the summer before. The father whose fence I had rebuilt after a storm without charging him a dime. That kind of immediate family. I said okay because sometimes that is the only word that fits when someone has already told you exactly where you stand. She quickly added that they did not think I would be interested with work and all, plumbing stuff, busy being the help. Then she laughed awkwardly and told me not to be silly, that it was just a dinner. I told her to enjoy it. She said she loved me. I hung up without saying it back. I did not stew that night. I did not text anyone. I did not write some dramatic message about being excluded. I microwaved leftover pasta, dropped onto my futon, and started scrolling through flights, hotels, and quiet coastal getaways. If I was not invited to the big family table, that was fine. I would take myself somewhere with actual good views and no passive-aggressive seating arrangements. I booked a weekend trip to a quiet beach town about 3 hours away. A mid-range hotel, ocean view, continental breakfast, nothing flashy. Just me, salt air, and 0 group chats. It was not a tantrum. It was self-respect. I did not tell them I was going. No snarky text. No little have fun without me dig. I just zipped up a duffel bag with 2 t-shirts, a hoodie, swim trunks, and the good sandals I saved for the rare occasions when I treated myself like I mattered. Saturday morning, I left before sunrise. As the city faded behind me and the sky warmed from steel to gold, I realized something that surprised me. I was not really mad. I was just done. Done trying to earn a seat at a table where my chair was always slightly out of reach. Done playing the quiet, reliable one who never complained. They called it just a small dinner. Cool, let them have it. I had something better waiting for me at the end of the highway. Silent space and shrimp tacos with no detours. The ocean was already busy by the time I parked. Families dragged umbrellas across the sand. Kids chased seagulls like they were personally offended by them. And couples carried iced coffees like trophies. I checked into the hotel, dropped my bag, and stepped out onto the balcony. Waves, clean air, no backhanded compliments. I pulled out a chair and sat down, letting the salt wind loosen a week's worth of irritation from my shoulders. The beach was not fancy. It was one of those semi-forgotten stretches of coastline where the sunscreen always smelled like childhood, and nobody seemed to be trying to go viral. That made it perfect. Down below, a dad was trying to put up one of those impossible pop-up tents, while his toddler cheered him on by throwing sand at his legs. I grinned. That guy was having a worse Saturday than me, and he was invited to the party. Around noon, I wandered down to the boardwalk and found a little food shack with surfboards nailed to the wall and handwritten menus that looked like they had survived 3 hurricanes. I ordered a shrimp po' boy, sat at a weathered picnic table, and pulled out my phone. No missed calls. No texts. It was funny how silence could feel louder than noise. Not that I wanted them to reach out. I just noticed that they did not. Not even a hope you are doing okay. Not even a wish you could have come. I opened Instagram and, of course, Melanie had already posted. She was wearing a white flowy dress and Bryce stood behind her in a linen shirt, trying to look natural, which somehow made him look constipated. The caption said she was engaged to the love of her life, ring sparkle, surrounded by the best family ever. Cool, I guessed. Best family. Apparently, that did not include the guy who used to carry her upstairs when she fell asleep in the car as a kid. It did not include the guy who fixed her headboard after a bad breakup and pretended not to notice the tears soaking through her pillow. No, I was the not immediate one now, the extra. I locked my phone and slid it face down. I was not doing that to myself. Not there. Back at the hotel, I changed into my swim trunks and headed for the water. I waited out until the cold hit me in the chest, then dove all the way in. Salt water in my nose, freedom in my lungs. Floating there with my arms spread wide, staring up at the sky, I thought, this is better than pretending to belong. It was not that I hated my family. I did not even think they were evil. They just had a selective memory. One that filtered out every time I showed up, helped out, stayed quiet, and smiled through it. One that edited me out like I was bad lighting in a family photo. And I had let them do it for too long. That night, I walked to a small seafood bar strung with twinkly lights where a guy in the corner played acoustic guitar like every song was about a breakup he had almost recovered from. I ordered fish tacos and a local beer and sat alone watching the sky melt into stars. The couple next to me was celebrating something. Maybe an anniversary. Maybe just surviving a Tuesday. They clinked glasses and whispered things I could not hear. I did not envy them. I just noticed them. Then I saw an older woman across the patio, alone like me. She raised her glass and smiled when our eyes met. We did not speak. We just nodded a silent toast. Between 2 strangers who had both chosen solitude over something messier. For the first time in a while, I did not feel like a loner. I felt like someone who had made a choice. I had chosen peace over pretending. I went back to the hotel, pulled the covers up to my chin, and let the sound of waves drown out whatever was happening at that small dinner. Whatever was happening back home could wait. The next morning started slowly. Ocean breeze, bad hotel coffee, salt still clinging to my skin from the night before. I opened the balcony door just wide enough to hear the waves again, steady and rhythmic, like a reminder that the world did not revolve around family dinners I was not invited to. I was not in a rush. That is the thing about disappearing. It does not require fanfare. It only requires a decision to stop showing up where you are not wanted. I threw on a wrinkled t-shirt, slipped into my good sandals, and headed down to the beach. It was already buzzing with surfers, wiping out kids, building sandcastles too close to the tide, and couples arguing over sunscreen like the future of their relationship depended on SPF. Somehow, it was the kind of chaos that felt peaceful. No passive-aggressive digs. No last-minute demand to fix a faucet while I was already there. Around mid-morning, I wandered up toward the boardwalk, one of those charmingly run-down spots that smelled like grilled pineapple, old wood, and vaguely like someone had just lost a corn dog. I passed a man selling hand-painted skateboards, another man trying to guess people's weight for $5, and a third who was aggressively offering hugs to strangers. I ended up at a little outdoor market tucked between a souvenir shack and a place selling $18 smoothies. There were handmade shell necklaces, driftwood carvings, and tie-dye shirts that had not been cool since 2006. I was not planning to buy anything, but I spotted a small keychain shaped like a wave. Worn metal, smooth edges. It fit perfectly in my palm. I bought it. I did not know why. I just did. As I waited for the vendor to count my change, my phone buzzed in my pocket. I did not rush to check it. Honestly, I had almost forgotten my phone existed that weekend. But when I pulled it out, the name on the screen made my eyebrows rise. Melanie had sent one message, short, no emoji, no punctuation. She asked why I had not picked up. She said I always did. I stood there in the sun with the keychain warm in my hand, staring at those words. The message was not angry. It was not even passive-aggressive. It was hollow. Like she had expected something to fall into place and it had not. And now the world did not make sense. I always picked up. She was right. I always picked up. When Bryce lost his job and wanted advice, I picked up. When Melanie needed help moving apartments for the 6th time, I picked up. When Dad needed someone to reset the Wi-Fi or check the water heater, I picked up. It was always the same script. This was the first time I had not. I did not reply. I just locked the screen and kept walking. Back on the beach, I kicked off my sandals and let the water reach my ankles. Families played frisbee. Dogs ignored leash laws with the confidence of elected officials. I stood still, eyes on the horizon, letting the ocean blur everything else. The air was thick with salt and sunscreen, and the kind of warmth that comes from doing absolutely nothing for once and not feeling guilty about it. Somewhere back home, they were probably washing champagne flutes and packing up leftover cake. Maybe my mom was scrolling through photos. Maybe my dad was pretending he had not cried during the toast. Maybe Melanie was showing off her ring to an audience that had no idea who had installed the living room dimmers for that engagement night vibe. That would be me, not invited but still doing the labor in the background. That was the pattern. It always had been. I stopped at a taco stand on the way back to the hotel. A couple was arguing over guacamole portions, and for some reason, it made me laugh out loud. I grabbed 2 shrimp tacos and sat on a wooden bench facing the water. My phone buzzed again, but this time I did not check it. I let it vibrate against the wood and fall silent. That night, I sat under the string lights of the same seafood bar where I had eaten the night before. Familiar music played. The same guy strummed the same guitar. The fish tacos were still slightly overcooked. The silence was still there. But this time, it felt heavier. Not because I missed them, because they were starting to notice that I did not. Sunday began like the perfect ending to a weekend of not caring. I slept in stretched so hard my spine popped like bubble wrap and shuffled barefoot to the sliding balcony door. Ocean breeze, warm sunlight, the distant scream of a toddler losing a battle with sunscreen. Perfection. I had no plans except finding breakfast and maybe a pina colada. I did not need to justify anything to anyone. Then I checked my phone. 4 missed calls, 1 voicemail. All from my mom. The first timestamp was 2:17 a.m. I am no detective, but I have seen enough late-night family drama to know calls after 2 in the morning never means someone just wanted to say they loved you. I did not press play. Not yet. I set the phone down like it might explode and walked to the hotel coffee station. I poured myself a fresh cup of whatever dark liquid they were calling Sumatra roast, then sat on the balcony and let the sun do its therapy work. Waves crashed, people laughed below, birds screamed like they paid rent. Everything was normal except for that blinking voicemail icon. Eventually, I gave in and pressed play. My mom's voice came through first, and she identified herself like there were a lot of mothers calling me at 2 in the morning. She said she did not know if I was busy or if I was ignoring them, but something had happened. Then there was a pause. Background chatter. A man's voice muttering something I could not understand. She was somewhere loud. She said Melanie was really upset. She said it was not supposed to go like this. Nobody expected it. Another pause followed the long kind where a person chooses words carefully because the truth is already making everything worse. Then she told me to call her. Please. The voicemail ended. That was it. No explanation. No clue what actually happened. Just enough breadcrumbs to ruin my morning and make my coffee taste like suspicion. I sat in silence for a while, listening to the ocean and watching a sandpiper judge me from the railing. Eventually, I opened the family group chat. Melanie had renamed it something like, Mel's Big Night, part crime scene transcript. The messages were already piling up. Uncle Ron was asking if anyone had heard from Bryce. Aunt Kathy was still shocked that it had happened in front of Grandma. Melanie wrote that she could not believe it and asked what was wrong with him. My dad told everyone to keep things respectful and private, which was adorable considering it was a chat with my parents, my sister, and 10 relatives who could not keep a secret if you stapled it to their foreheads. Cousin Isla said she was still shaking and thought he had been joking. Bryce's brother wrote that I would have handled it way better. Excuse me, why was I being name-dropped? I kept scrolling. Aunt Lisa asked if they should call me. My mom said I was not answering. Melanie replied that I never answered when they actually needed me. Oh, now they needed me, right. Then a direct message from Grandma appeared of all people. She told me she hoped I was okay and that she was proud of me for staying out of it. I stared at that for a long moment. Grandma was not one for drama. If she was texting me directly, something had gone seriously sideways. I locked my phone. The screen went dark and reflected my face back at me, salt-bleached, sun-kissed, and officially not involved. And it felt good. I walked along the beach again, letting the cold waves numb my ankles while I watched a group of teenagers try to bury one of their friends in the sand. His head stuck out, grinning like an idiot. That guy did not have family drama that day. Halfway through a fish taco on a boardwalk bench, Melanie tried calling me directly for the first time in more than 6 months. I declined without guilt. Back at the hotel, I stood on the balcony one more time and let the night wind hit my face. Something had definitely gone down at that party, something ugly, and for once, I did not have to clean it up. By the time the sun dipped behind the water, casting everything in that golden pink filter that made even trash bins look romantic, I was back on the hotel balcony, sipping my second soda of the evening like it was aged scotch. I had no plans, no obligations, and thanks to hotel Wi-Fi, front row access to whatever meltdown was unraveling back home. It started with one new notification in the group chat, a blurry video, 3 seconds long, captioned only with, "Bryce, you idiot." I hesitated. My thumb hovered over the screen like I was defusing a bomb. Then curiosity won. I hit play. Chaos. The video opened in the middle of shouting. Melanie's voice was sharp and full volume as she demanded that Bryce say it to her face and ask if it was true. Someone knocked over a glass. A plate shattered. A very distressed relative screamed about a casserole. In the far background, Bryce's voice cracked out a pathetic excuse about how it was not like that. Then the clip cut off. 3 seconds. That was all. But those 3 seconds said more than any dinner invitation ever could. Before I could process what I had just watched, the group chat exploded like someone had thrown a grenade into the center of the buffet table. Aunt Lisa wrote that she had known something was off because Bryce's jawline screamed cheater. Uncle Ron wanted to know why there was even a second woman involved and what kind of Netflix nonsense they were living through. Cousin Jared said Melanie had gone full WWE on the centerpiece and that he was pretty sure someone cried. Isla said Grandma's eye twitched, and that was when she knew it was over. Bryce's brother said I would not have let it happen and that they should have invited me instead of that clown. Then Melanie herself wrote that she could not believe Bryce had not told her he was still talking to his ex. She had found that woman commenting on their photos. She called him an absolute goblin. I am not going to lie. I reread that one twice. Goblin was a bold insult, but somehow accurate. I scrolled and scrolled the messages, coming in faster than I could read them. My mom tried to calm the storm with a desperate reminder that they were still a family and should not fight. Cousin Derek immediately followed that by saying they were not still a family after Bryce used the proposal cake as a shield. Apparently, the man had ducked behind fondant like it was bulletproof. I laughed out loud, alone on that balcony, like a lunatic, and it felt amazing. For once, I was not the one cleaning up emotional spills. I was not the middleman. I was not the peacemaker. I was not the ignored helper with a wrench in one hand and a forced smile on my face. I was just a guy at the beach watching a disaster unfold from a safe and sandy distance. Then, as if the drama gods were not done blessing me, I got a private message from Melanie. She said she should not have said I was not real family. She said it was wrong. A second message came after a pause. She wrote that I was the only one who had ever actually shown up when it mattered, even when I did not have to. I stared at that for a long minute, because the truth was, I had shown up, for years. For birthdays where I was not celebrated, for house projects where I was never thanked, for errands, emergencies, emotional breakdowns, quiet support, and silent fixes. But not this time. This time, I chose peace. I chose distance. And somehow, that made me more visible than ever. I dropped my phone onto the bed and walked barefoot out to the beach, letting the tide nip at my ankles. Overhead, stars began to poke through the dusk like they were checking if it was safe to come out. Somewhere hundreds of miles away, my family was finally being forced to face a mess they could not pin on me. A mess I did not cause. A mess I did not have to clean. When I got back to my room, the group chat had been renamed from Melanie's Big Night Part 2 to Family First with a red heart. Of course it had. Underneath that, my call log showed 12 missed calls and 3 voicemails. That tracked. I turned my phone on silent, plugged it in, and left it face down on the nightstand. The waves were loud that night, but my silence was louder. The next morning, I woke to my phone buzzing like it was trying to escape the nightstand. 21 missed calls, 4 voicemails, a dozen new texts. It was like everyone had suddenly remembered I had a number and apparently boundaries. I did not check anything right away. I just lay there, listening to the ocean outside the window, the distant thud of someone slamming a hotel door, and the faint squawk of a seagull absolutely losing its mind over a chip. It was peaceful, and honestly, I was not ready to give that up. Eventually, I cracked. First was my mom. She asked me to please call her and said she did not know what else to say. Another message said they missed me, that she knew they had made mistakes, but the family needed me right now. Oh, now it needed me? The same family that forgot I existed when it was time to plan the big night. The same people who once called me too quiet to notice at a family dinner, then asked me to take out the trash 10 minutes later. Right. Then came Melanie's message. She said she was wrong. She said she had said things she did not mean. She said I had always been the one who was there when it counted. I read it twice. And yes, it stung a little. Not because she was apologizing, but because part of me wanted to believe she meant it. Then I remembered the only reason I was not there this time was because they had never even given me the chance. Bryce was the last one to show up in my inbox. Of course he was. He said things had gotten blown out of proportion. He said he had not meant to hurt anyone and that things had just gotten complicated. So apparently we were doing the "it's complicated" routine like this was a Facebook status and not a full-blown double proposal scandal. He admitted he had messed up, but then he said he wished I had been there. He said it would not have gone so badly if I had been. Yeah, probably because I would have been the one calmly shoving napkins into Grandma's lap while Melanie threw her engagement ring like a ninja star. But I was not there. And for once, it was not my job to put out the fire. I left the phone face down and went outside. The beach was still cool, the sand packed and damp from the early tide. I passed a group of kids trying to build a sandcastle that looked more like a potato, while their mom half-watched with one hand wrapped around a coffee and the other scrolling Instagram. A few yards away, an older couple sat in folding chairs. They were not talking. They were just sitting silently, side by side, facing the waves. I do not know why, but that image stayed with me. Sometimes the quiet is the connection. Not the noise, not the chaos. Back in the hotel room, I finally listened to one voicemail. It was my mom again. Her voice was soft and cautious, almost like she was not sure I would ever hear it. She said she knew they had hurt me and that she was not going to pretend they had not. Then she paused and admitted she did not think I would really stay away. She said she guessed she had gotten used to me always forgiving them. Another pause came after that. Longer this time. I could hear people talking behind her, probably still sweeping up pieces of Bryce's dignity from the floor. Then she said I had not deserved to be left out, and she was sorry. She said she meant it. The voicemail ended. I sat on the edge of the bed staring at the floor. It was a good apology, but I was tired of apologies that only came after the damage, after people realized I was no longer useful. Aunt Lisa texted me next. She said, I always held everyone together, and that they had not realized how much until I was not there. Translation, they had taken me for granted until the glue melted. Then Cousin Jared messaged me to say Grandma wanted to see me, and that she had said, and he quoted her, at least I was not the one who brought the floozy. Charming Grandma, noted. I spent the evening on the balcony with a basket of garlic shrimp and a soda in a glass shaped like a coconut. It was kitschy, overpriced, and possibly the best drink I had ever had. The messages kept coming. Apologies, excuses. One suspicious little question from a cousin who asked if I was mad at him, which was funny because he was the same cousin who once told me I was the background character of the family. I did not answer any of them, because silence, it turns out, is louder than any clapback. And right then, it was speaking fluently. I drove home midweek. No fanfare, no countdown in the family chat. I did not tell anyone I was coming back because, honestly, it was not for them. I had bills to check, laundry to do, and a workshop that probably missed me more than any blood relative ever had. Besides, I needed the break to end on my terms. The beach had cleared my head in a way nothing else ever had. As I watched the exit sign for my hometown slide past the windshield, I knew something had shifted. Not just around me, but inside me. This time, I was not walking back into the same role, and I was not taking requests. Within 30 minutes of being home, my mom somehow knew. I do not know if she had a tracker installed in my spine or if someone saw me at the gas station, but my phone buzzed before I had even unlocked my apartment. She asked if I was back and whether we could talk. I stared at the message, then checked the timestamp, around 9 in the morning. She did not even give me time to buy groceries. That afternoon, I got another message from Melanie. She asked if we could meet for coffee or something because she wanted to clear the air. The air does not clear when people keep blowing smoke. But I agreed. Not because I owed them anything, but because I did not want it hanging over me like a mildew-scented shower curtain. We met at a local cafe, the kind that sells coffee strong enough to dissolve furniture. Melanie was already there, sitting by the window and fidgeting with her phone case. She looked different, not in the hair or outfit way, more like someone whose confidence had been scraped raw. When I sat down, she greeted me carefully. I nodded. She waited, then said she guessed I knew everything now. I told her I knew more than I wanted to, then sipped my coffee. It tasted like scorched bark. Perfect. She gave a dry laugh and looked down. She said she had really messed up. I did not jump in to comfort her. I just waited. She said she should have invited me. She said I had always shown up for her, and she had taken that for granted. There it was, the line I had always wanted to hear. But it did not feel like a prize. It felt like confirmation that I had let too much slide for too long. I leaned forward and told her she had not just forgotten. She had excluded me. She had made a choice. Her eyes welled and she nodded. She said she knew, and she hated that she had not realized how much she leaned on me until I was not there. She paused and took a breath. Then she said the whole dinner had blown up. Bryce had been exposed. Grandma had nearly choked on a cherry tomato. Aunt Kathy had sworn off family events forever. I raised an eyebrow and said, that sounded like a normal Tuesday. This time, Melanie gave a real laugh. She said yes, but without me, it felt worse. There it was again, that quiet expectation that I would return to my role as the emotional janitor. I smiled politely and told her I was glad she was okay, but I had not come back to be part of that. Her smile froze. I continued. I told her I had my own life, my own peace, and I was not trading it in just because the house caught fire while I was gone. She swallowed and nodded slowly. Then she said something I did not expect. She said she understood. She really did. She said she did not blame me. She only hoped that one day I would still be around. When I left the cafe, I did not feel angry. I felt free. For the first time in my life, I had said what I needed to say and had not rushed to make anyone else feel better. No emotional cleanup, no guilt-tripping myself, no fake closure, just truth, calm, clean, and unshakable. That night, I sat in my workshop with only the hum of tools and a project I had been ignoring for weeks. I put on music, rolled up my sleeves, and got to work. While my family was still scrambling to figure out what I meant to them, I already knew what I meant to myself. I was not angry. I was not out for revenge. But from then on, my actions spoke louder than any apology they could send. Maybe it would be a big moment I did not invite them to. Maybe it would be public recognition they were not expecting. Whatever it was, they would realize they were no longer part of my life in the way they used to be. Not because I pushed them out, but because they had walked out first. A week passed. I did not call. I did not text. I did not check the group chat. They renamed it again. By the way, from family first to rebuilding together, complete with folded hands, as if slapping a motivational poster on a cracked foundation would make the walls stop leaking. I did not bother leaving the chat. I was back at work, back in rhythm. The kind of rhythm you only earn when no one hands you shortcuts. My shop was running smoother than ever. I had a small team now, good people. People who showed up because they wanted to, not because guilt dragged them in. One of my clients, a property manager, pulled me aside after a job and asked if I had ever thought about expanding. He told me I was the most requested guy in 3 counties. That stayed with me, not because I needed praise, but because somewhere between being excluded from engagement parties and ignored at holidays, I had built something they could not take away. I was not just enough, I was more than they had ever expected. That weekend, the city held its annual Community Awards banquet. It was small-town stuff. Fold-out chairs, overcooked pasta, a man named Larry playing acoustic covers of 2000 pop songs. But they gave me something, a plaque in recognition of outstanding local service and entrepreneurship. Simple, clean. I did not tell my family I was going. I did not need them there, but they showed up anyway. I saw them the second I stepped onto the stage, sitting in the back row and trying to blend in like tourists at a school play. My mom clutched her purse with both hands. Melanie looked like she had swallowed her apology all over again. My dad nodded once like that counted as effort, and me, I smiled calmly. I took the plaque. I shook the mayor's hand. I thanked the crowd. Then I sat back down beside my foreman, who leaned over and whispered that I had not told him my family would be there. I whispered back that I had not told myself either. After the event, Melanie approached me alone in the hallway. She said it was a big deal and that I deserved it. I thanked her and pocketed my phone. She looked like she wanted to say more, but I did not make it easier for her. She cleared her throat and said she hoped that someday we could be close again. I gave her a polite nod and said, maybe. But in my head, I already knew the truth. I had a new definition of close. It did not include people who only saw my value once it became undeniable. That night, I posted a photo of the plaque. My caption said, "Turns out sitting at the kids' table does not stop you from building your own." The likes came fast, so did the messages. None of them came from my family, not right away. Then 2 hours later, my mom sent one message. She said they were proud of me. I did not respond. She already knew. Because from where I was standing now, I finally had a seat at the table. And this time, I had built it myself.